Yes, it's another Dirt 5 video, and apologies, I know there's been a lot of these on this show lately, but now that the game has finally been patched properly and you can finally unlock all of the trophies, or at least I was able to get the platinum and the majority of players are, I felt like I could finally talk about what I felt was that one bullshit Dirt 5 trophy, and oh my god, is it a bullshit one. So hands down, anyone who has platinum this game will say this trophy, as the spare some change for gas trophy is definitely the most bullshit in this game, as it requires you to drive 1,000 miles in the game. So the game itself has a career mode, and that has around 120 events, but don't quote me on that exact number, so I might be wrong. So there is a lot of driving for you to do in the meat and bones of the actual game, which kind of makes sense really, as it is a racing game after all, so you would expect to drive an awful lot. So as you're going for this trophy, one of the first things you'll notice, and one of the first problems that you'll notice, is that currently in game there is actually no way of actually telling how many miles you have actually driven through online, single player, multiplayer, local, or your career. The game never shows you how many miles you've driven, and I don't know why it doesn't do that, because that's just kind of, well, it's kind of
bullshit.
Ugh, I hate when games have trophies like this, but they don't include any form of tracking, so you can't keep an eye on how much progress you're making, as well as determine how best to actually fill up that stat. And you would just naturally go for the career, wouldn't you? And after completing that, you would just expect that you were close to 1,000, right? Right? Well, you would, because that's the meat and bones of the game, so you'd expect to have done almost 1,000 at that point. But after beating Durand and AJ, I'd estimate at best I had driven 400 to 500 miles.
But wait, there's more.
And up until a recent patch, the 1,000 miles requirement was a lot worse, as it used to require you to drive 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles? What the fuck were they thinking? Oh my god, 1,000 is long and grindy enough as it is, but 10,000? Jesus Christ, Codemasters, well done, you fucking screwed over your customers once again. That is absolutely disgusting. There is no other reason for that trophy to have that such a long requirement like that, such a pointlessly long and drawn out trophy like that, other than to just desperately keep you playing the game for longer. And sure, you can clock up miles online in the single player, whatever, but still, that's an excessive amount of miles for you to have to drive, and it's only because players complained that they eventually backed down and changed it to 1,000, which is still way too much. So after beating the career, I had the chance to play online, but that was glitchy as hell. So how did I go about unlocking this really terribly grindy and horrible trophy? Well, I decided to just do it solo in a free race event, and I picked this East Mitten sprint track because it was just a sort of oval shape, so it was really simple and basic, and I just picked one of the best cars I had, this little Mini Cooper, and I just decided to just do laps of this track. So I cranked the lap counter up to 50, and I removed all of the cars and just did a sort of, it was kind of like a time trial event on it, and I would just go around doing laps of this course, because for me this just felt like it was the best sort of way of doing it. It wasn't a really awkwardly long track, so I didn't have to worry really about driving properly and taking the corners properly, and if I would end up losing concentration and end up crashing and messing up. This one was just a basic track going around in a basic circle shape, to be honest. So that's exactly what I did. I just sat there and just went around and around and around and around and around this track, which probably took per lap around, I would say, about 15 seconds every lap. And I would do 50 laps of this, and slowly but surely the lap counter would go up, and it would eventually get to 50, and I would end up finishing that event, and that would bank me 50 laps and however many miles that was, because again, there's no way to actually know how many miles that was, but I would estimate maybe that was I would hope, around 5 miles every 10 lap. Like a mile every lap, so I'm probably doing 5 miles in that 50, and I was just counting it as that, and then just going from there. So as soon as it completed, I would then restart it and begin the whole tedious and boring process again of doing another 50 laps, going around and around this boring track. And to do 50 laps, it probably took around 20 minutes in total, if you count like the loading in and out. And I did this for about 5 hours. And after every 2 or 3 goes, I would close the game down and save and back up the save file, because this game has a habit of crashing and corrupting your save. But after doing that for 5 hours, I kind of got bored and I wanted to find a better method. And it was there when I went online into the Playgrounds feature, and I found this track, 10k Trophy AFK 2 tracks course that someone had made. So I decided to fire this up and just take a look at it and see what it was. And it's basically this custom area that someone's made, and it's a track that is caged off. So you basically drive into it and then you can just drive around it, but you don't have to actually play it, if you know what I mean. So I could just sit here now, but have my thumb or hold down the accelerate button so that the car would just automatically drive around and bounce around the edge of these rails to do all these laps. So I could leave this here running for an hour at a time, and it would just go around on its own as long as the button on the controller was held down. And after doing a couple of laps just to see it and watch it myself while holding it down, I decided to do that. So I just taped up, using sellotape, I just taped down the R2 button on my PS5 controller, and I watched it for another couple of minutes just to make sure if it worked and the car didn't bounce out or flip round. And to my surprise, it actually worked. So that's what I did for the remainder of the hundreds and hundreds of miles that I needed to get for this 1,000 miles trophy. I literally just left the game running in this state for around an hour, and then I would come back to it. So I would just flick over the TV and watch some on telly or something, or just do something else around the house and leave this running for an hour. And then every hour I would then come back, exit out of this event to save the progress, back up my save to the cloud, go back into the game, and then do this again for another hour and just repeat that over and over again. And I actually spent several nights doing this for multiple hours each night, over and over and over again, to slowly but surely work my way up to that 1,000 miles counter. And if that doesn't show you how bullshit this trophy is, I don't know what will, because this is all just dead game time. There is no content in this game to justify this such a long amount of time spent to try and get these miles racked up. And the worst part is, it used to be 10,000 and they thought that was okay to actually release. That is absolutely ridiculous. That was such a horrible grind that I didn't even play, but it was still horrible. It's just such an absolute waste of time. But you know what? It actually gets worse. You see, because the PS5 version was broke, I ended up going back and switching to the PS4 version and playing the game on that instead. So the footage you're seeing here is of me playing it on the PS4 version of the game.
What the fuck?
Which I actually went on to platinum it. So this meant that I actually did the spare some change for gas trophy again on the PS4 version. So I effectively did 2,000 miles for these 2 trophies. Oh my god. And it gets even worse than that, because you see, for the PS5 version, I was actually grinding for this trophy while the trophy itself was still broken. So God knows how many extra miles I did on top of the 1,000 for the PS5 version, just not knowing how much I did, because they didn't include a goddamn counter for it. So for that reason, the spare some change for gas trophy in Dirt 5 gets a bullshit trophy rating of...
Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
You said so bullshit.
Oh shit.
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 Shit. Shit. Shit.